Historians, editorial boards, legal think tanks, and political analysts are all still grappling with the truly landmark ruling on presidential immunity the Supreme Court handed down this week. Some call the decision an escalation of the long rise of presidential power that transforms the American presidency, poses a risk for democracy, shields law-breaking presidents, and undermines and even mocks the rule of law. Many say it could be the most consequential Supreme Court decision in a generation. Now fear is rising that our institutions, in fact, our entire form of government, could truly be changed as a result. Let's discuss this with some of the smartest minds that we know. Douglas Brinkley is a presidential historian. Glenn Kirshner is a former federal prosecutor and host of the Justice Matters podcast. And Matthew Dowd is the former chief strategist for the Bush-Cheney 2004 presidential campaign and a senior MSNBC political contributor and analyst. So thank you all for being here. Glenn, I want to go to you first. We have an update to Donald Trump's classified documents case. In a new filing, Trump's legal team is requesting that the entire case be paused while the immunity issue is resolved. They would like Judge Aileen Cannon to find that the appointment of special counsel Jack Smith is totally unconstitutional based on Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas's concurring opinion in the immunity ruling, which basically says just that. What do you make of this?
You know, it's not surprising, Yamiche, that Trump's legal team picked up on the separate concurrence that Justice Thomas wrote, which was dead inappropriate. You can look back to the early 1900s, and the Supreme Court has always said it doesn't issue advisory opinions when there is not a case or controversy that they are asked to decide. And yet, Justice Thomas did just that, giving a shout out to Judge Cannon, saying, hey, you might want to look at whether Jack Smith was lawfully appointed. And if not, the whole shebang, that's a legal term, ought to be thrown out. And the prosecution should not proceed. Of course, Donald Trump's lawyers have now briefed up that issue, or at least are asking Judge Cannon to allow them to brief up that issue. And they're also briefing up or asking to brief up the absolute presidential immunity issue, which we all saw coming a mile away. Now, admittedly, Judge Cannon will probably have to hold some evidentiary hearings to determine whether some of the acts, some of the conduct by Donald Trump while still president, that was when he basically collected up and, let's call it what it was, stole from the federal government classified documents, whether any of that should enjoy any level of presidential immunity, either absolute or presumptive. So we knew there would be legal issues that would have to be litigated down in Florida. But when you read this 20-plus page filing by Donald Trump, it not surprisingly reads like yet another extended Trump post with all sorts of nonsense thrown in the mix.
Wow. And Doug, as a presidential historian, how significant do you think the Supreme Court's ruling is on the very nature of the American presidency? And as we're talking about the whole shebang, do you agree that the whole shebang, the democracy, the rule, that it's forever changed here?
Yes, I do believe that our country's dramatically changed. There's been fear of an imperial presidency for a long time. In 1973, at the time of Watergate, a historian, Arthur Schlesinger Jr., wrote a book called The Imperial Presidency, and he was worried that Nixon had too much power. Well, Nixon's view of things, as he famously said on BBC's David Frost show, if the president does it, it must be legal. Hence, cut to this 6-3 decision in a very right-wing court who's doing everything they can to help Donald Trump get reelected. And we're looking at the possible specter in January of Trump being inaugurated with the Republican Congress, Republican Senate, and the Supreme Court. Therefore, you'll see Trump, number one, use the Justice Department in a weaponized fashion against his political opponents. Nobody will be off limit. I don't know how far he can go that, but it won't be seen as abuse of power anymore if Trump targets people. It'll be seen as that's what the Supreme Court said I can do. Willy-nilly, you'll be able to see Donald Trump just jack 10% tariffs on any product he felt like doing. The list gets long, and it's not what a founder thought about that we would do such a thing.
Hey there, MSNBC fans. I'm Luke Russert, and be sure to join me, Rachel Maddow, Jen Psaki, Lawrence O'Donnell, Steve Kornacki, Joy Reid, and many more September 7th in Brooklyn MSNBC Live Democracy 2024. Click on the link for ticket information. We will see you there.